Welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with your host, Dr. Kate. This is where your journey to burnout recovery starts. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like work has become unmanageable? Join me and my guests for open and honest conversations about burnout recovery from the comfort of the front porch. I am here to help you build your resilience and prepare you for burnout in a whole new way through a variety of perspectives. Move past the idea that burnout can only be addressed by avoidance and work to integrate recovery into your daily life. Relax, take a breath. The From Burnout to Recovery show starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio and member of the Cornelius Stephanie Media Group. I am your host, Dr. Kate, and I am excited to welcome you to the show today. Remember, as you are enjoying the show, hit that subscribe button and make sure that you're signed up for notifications so you never miss a new episode. And be sure to download the KS Media Group app for all the world's best influencers in one place. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest, Michelle Perry, today. Michelle L. Perry established herself as a subject matter expert over the course of her career as a clinical social worker in the field of child welfare that spanned over 20 years. She then transitioned into the corporate world where her leadership, training, and coaching skills were refined, producing results in all she works with. As an awareness coach, consultant, strategist, podcast host, speaker, international best-selling author, and online course creator, Michelle contributes to the journey of others by equipping and supporting them to see results and experience an increase in confidence and momentum in their lives. Michelle, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here and share and contribute, add value. Love the work you do. And I'm just so excited for our conversation.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I am excited to get chatting too. So to get us started, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how burnout has impacted your life and your journey to recovery.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned it in my bio. I became a subject matter expert, which always tongue ties me, in a career that I feel like it chose me. I didn't really choose it. I grew up in a household where service was primary as a value, and so my mother was a nurse midwife, and service and care and all of those things were highly valued. So I went into child welfare, which is foster care and adoption for those who are not aware, and became a national consultant, worked for different states and was literally flying around the country 3.5 weeks out of every month. And I was married at the time. And after years of this and really working hard, I have a very strong work ethic. My husband one day when I was home said to me, Michelle, I love you, but I don't know who you are anymore. You are not the person I married. This is not working for me. Get your life together. And I didn't like that message. I didn't like the package that it came in. I didn't like anything about that conversation. But rather than react, I chose to respond, take a moment, go look in the mirror, reflect. And I was horrified by what I saw looking back at me. I was no longer the person that I thought I was. I really wasn't serving myself or anyone to the full capacity that I really had within me. And I had developed health issues and a chronic condition that I was not addressing. And I was overweight and really wasn't paying attention to that either. So that was what burnout looked like for me, but I didn't have the language for it. I didn't know what to call it. It just felt like overwhelm and failure. And what happened was that was what triggered my exit from my life of service as I knew it into corporate America to take a break. And corporate America can be very stressful for people. But for me, it was really an oasis to heal, restore, rediscover myself, and also learn what service meant in a different capacity. And that's really where my life has transitioned to. So that's sort of a nutshell of my burnout story. Now that I have language for it.
Yeah. I so resonate with the aspect in your the message of like, I don't know you at this point. I don't know who you've become. And then kind of reflecting on that and being like, no, yeah, me either in that aspect, because I definitely felt that way when I was in in burnout myself. And I mean, I look back at it and I refer to that period of time as me becoming the worst version of myself in that aspect, and really that redefinition of service and those kinds of things. What kinds of ways did you come from like the name of like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, to finally like naming it as burnout?
Be very transparent. I didn't label it as burnout until very recently. And I've been in corporate America now for almost a decade. And so for me, what really put language to it was, I said to myself, Michelle, you have to tell the truth about what's going on, because I was ignoring, I was in denial, I wasn't paying attention. And when I started to tell the truth and forgive myself for how I treated myself first, that was the first step. And as I continue to walk my journey, it's interesting. I always say this: when the student is ready, the teacher will come, right? The lessons will appear. And if you don't conquer the lessons, you're going to go around the mountain. They're going to keep appearing in your life until you conquer them, is a belief that I have. And so the language for burnout came years later, when I was still trying to understand what that was in that season, so that I didn't replicate it going forward, because I still have a heart for service. I still have a strong work ethic. There are things that I trend to behavior-wise that can lead to another season of burnout. And so, when the language came, I was like, oh, that's what that was. Okay. Now I'm validated. I'm not crazy. I'm not just overwhelmed. It's an actual season and it's a thing. There's research behind it, and there are things to do to prevent it. And so that's sort of been my journey of understanding and to prevention.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, the prevention piece is something that's so interesting to me, because I think that it's something we prepare for, not necessarily prevent in that aspect, because it is a bit of a cycle, right? And you talked about like some of the natural tendencies that you had that kind of set us up for that burnout. But in that mindset, what are some of the prevention / preparation, tools that you use?
Yeah, I have to be very intentional. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation today, because in the last few weeks, I was recognizing feelings in my body, like tension, irritability, trouble falling asleep at night, playing my bubble game on my phone too often. Those are triggers for me that says, Michelle, you're beginning to feel overwhelmed, and this could lead to burnout. So for me, really telling the truth and paying attention are the two biggest ways to prepare to prevent a season of burnout. The other thing that is huge was curating a lifestyle of gratitude. And that took years, but really, so paying attention, telling the truth, and curating a lifestyle of gratitude are what I prepared to prevent burnout.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. So for our listeners, for our audience members who are like, okay, I want to give this gratitude thing a try in this aspect, how might they get started with cultivating a life with gratitude?
Yeah, that's a great question, because everyone says now, and it's a thing now, be grateful, implement gratitude. And I actually developed a course on how to do that, because people don't really talk about it's great, wonderful concept. How do you do it?
Yeah.
And for me, gratitude really started with one sentence. I opened my eyes in the morning. I'm grateful to be on this side of the dirt. And that was all I had to be grateful for in that season. And when I was consistent with being aware of something good that's happening, it began to snowball. And so now there's like journaling and all the things, but really paying attention to what's working well, because there's always something going well. There's always something that is working and that is good. And that facilitates that lifestyle of gratitude.
I love that. Simply pay attention to what is going well, and reflect on that, and pay attention to those moments and those pieces.
Yeah, because what we pay attention to, we get more of. Where you focus your mind, it's activating your brain systems. And I'm not going to go into the science, but when you are intentionally focused on something, your brain looks to validate that in the world. And so if you're looking for what's good and looking for what's working and things to be thankful for, you will find them.
I love that. Yeah. That the evidence will appear.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your brain is searching for it. As soon as you implement the thought, your brain starts to search for the evidence to make that true, which is such a powerful piece. You talked a little bit about noticing like your indicators and your triggers for, for burnout now and kind of the irritation or the overwhelm or playing, the bubble game in that aspect. How did you come about to identify those as kind of your like parameters or flags for overwhelm?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I developed a chronic condition, which my body literally will break down if I'm too stressed out. It's called Meniere syndrome. So I'll get vertigo where I literally can't
I'm
get out of
familiar.
bed.
Yes, my mom has it. So
Oh
we've
my
always had a
goodness.
sneaky like suspicion that I could possibly have it too. I get vertigo, but we haven't quite gotten to the diagnosis of Meniere's yet. But
yeah, and it's really hard to diagnose because it can overlap with other things.
Yes.
But I have hearing loss, the vertigo, vestibular migraines. And so my body, when I'm experiencing stress or anxiety that I'm not paying attention to, my body will let me know through those symptoms. And what happens is that if I'm in bed, I can't get out of bed because the world is spinning, then what I do now is I intentionally reflect, Michelle, what is going on? And I make myself tell the truth about what awareness comes up for me. So usually we know what's going on. We just haven't been paying attention to it. And so bringing that awareness, so that led to me acknowledging, telling the truth about my triggers. When I'm irritated, when I'm stressed out, when I don't sleep enough, when I'm not eating well, those are all things that can contribute to recognizing, Michelle, we need to stop. The world is not going to fall apart if you don't do anything for 5 minutes. And let's pay attention to how we can prepare to be successful and not go down that burnout season road.
Mm-hmm. I think you said something that's so powerful, and I want to make sure that our listeners hear this, is that piece of making yourself tell the truth about like your thought process. Like we know the truth, like we know what's going on. We probably know what's like bringing us to that state in that aspect, and the power in being honest with ourselves is so incredibly impactful.
Life transforming. When we tell the truth, even if it's not a truth we want to hear, accept, or acknowledge, I always remind myself, Michelle, you're not a tree. You can move, you can change. And so if there's something that is true that I don't like, I'm not in agreement with, I can then make changes based on the reality of that truth. And so I think that ties into that gratitude of, I'm grateful that I have the awareness to be able to tell the truth. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to change. And then how can I make changes so that things get better? Mm-hmm. And forgiving of self, I want to make sure that gets highlighted too, because failure is on the journey of success, right? Mm-hmm. I'm always talking about on my podcast about a successful life and how do you curate that? And part of it is understanding that mistakes and failure are not an end of the road. They're just a step in the journey. Mm-hmm. And so forgiving yourself for not being who you needed to be or whatever is key. So tell the truth, forgive yourself, extend the grace, switch into gratitude, and look for those things that you can do, because there's always something you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so amazingly powerful. If you were to offer our audience members one additional piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say tell the truth is the big one, but also appreciate your uniqueness. There is no one in the world like you, and no one can offer the world what you can, because no one's like you. And so appreciate that about yourself as you're telling the truth and gaining awareness and making all the changes and all the things. Appreciate who you are and love the fact that you're here. You have an opportunity.
I love that. So listeners, today, take a moment, tell yourself the truth, but also appreciate your uniqueness and really be grateful that there is no one else on this planet like you. Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can our listeners find out more about you?
This was so amazing. I love the work you do. If people want to connect with me, they can go to successfuldiligence.com, all the social successfuldiligence.com.
Awesome. And we will have all those links available for you in the show notes, dear listeners, so you can connect with Michelle and the work that she does in this aspect. Thank you again for being on the show today.
I love the experience. Have a fantastic rest of your day, listeners and Dr. Kate.
I am so thankful for Michelle in joining us on the show today, and cannot reiterate enough and how I love that piece that she brought up in being honest with ourselves. And that was something that I actually experienced this morning, and, had to have a moment with myself where I almost, did some self-coaching in that aspect, because I've been feeling the overwhelm and, was trying to figure out what's going on with me, what's going on in this aspect, and really had to do some honest journaling this morning to get down to the bottom of what was going on for me, and really kind of highlighting some false beliefs that I was letting run my life and in business in that aspect. And once I released them, I felt so much better. So never underestimate the power of what that reflection can do for us, especially when we take a moment to say, what is it that I'm not naming because I'm scared too? So, dear listeners, we are going to move into our recovery moment at this point. And of course, remember that I want you to practice this in a safe space. Today, we are going to be focused on a practice. We are going to be talking about a practice that will help you be more mindful in the morning. So if you're not listening to this in the morning, this is something that you can implement later on to support you in the start of your day. One more reminder to hit that subscribe button. Make sure that your notifications are turned on so you don't miss an episode. And be sure to share this with someone who might need to hear this as well. So let's get started on that recovery moment. So here we go with our guided meditation, and one that you can use to wake up with awareness. One of the best techniques to help bring mindfulness to everyday living is to start your day with it. Many of us have a rushed morning routine and do not pause to be present until later in the day. This exercise can help you start off your day with a mindful moment, bolstering your practice in the coming hours. When you wake, take a moment to pause before you get up. If you use an alarm clock, try attaching a sticky note to it to remind yourself. Laying in bed, tune in to the body. Feel the body resting and notice how it feels to begin moving and stretching. Bring your awareness to the breath. Taking a few deep breaths, recognize that you woke up and are breathing this morning. As you get up and begin your day, try to regain some awareness. Routines make it easy to fall into autopilot. Notice when you lose your presence and come back to mindfulness. So, dear listeners, I hope that you might try this tomorrow morning when you wake up. And if you use your phone as an alarm, maybe that alarm says something to the effect of check in with your mindfulness, check your breath, and simply take a moment to connect with your breath in the morning, feeling those nice few deep breaths in through your nose and out, feeling your chest rise and fall, recognizing that you woke up and are breathing in the morning. See how you can take that throughout your day, stopping yourself when you have started to come on autopilot and sorting out when and how you can create that awareness in space. One of the things that I like to do is to have kind of awareness or grateful breaks on my phone. I have them set up as reminders, and they remind me the same time every day just to take a moment to be grateful or to be aware. But it helps me stop from what I'm doing to just take a pause and acknowledge where I'm at in that present moment. Dear listeners, remember, for more recovery moments and advice, you can follow me at Dr. Kate Steiner on Instagram and subscribe to the From Burnout to Recovery Show YouTube channel. I am so thankful for our guest today, Michelle Perry, for joining us, and I am thankful to each of you for listening. Thank you for joining us today on the From Burnout to Recovery Show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Kate, and I wish you peace on your journey. Thank you for joining me on the front porch today. Remember, you can download your free guide on how to recover from burnout in 2 hours a week on my website, drkatesteiner.com. And as always, be well, my friends. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Kate, on the From Burnout to Recovery Show, where you are starting your journey to burnout recovery. You are invited to join me on the front porch every second and fourth Friday of the month on transformationtalkradio.com to continue growing in resilience and integrating recovery into your daily life. If you would like to learn more or find out how to work with me, visit liftwellnessconsulting.com.